because this was my calling for a long time. It just so happened, I guess, for me to surrender to it during this like family crisis, you know. But the calling is always there. And what I've learned is this world will reconfigure itself to put you on the path for you to say yes.
Hey everyone, let's start healing. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and welcome to episode 140 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. This episode today is one of my favorite conversations on this podcast. I am talking with wellness coach, Reiki healer, Yaminah Ahmad. It is a wonderful conversation because I love talking to people who walk the walk. And that is what she does. You'll see when you meet her. Uh, I'm going to let Yaminah share all about herself. I'm going to tell you a little bit um, of what she represents in my eyes. You know, we all go through hard times in our life in one way or another, personally, through our own journey of what we're trying to accomplish. Maybe we might deal with some kind of issue, possibly a medical issue or a crisis that we personally might experience, or someone in our household might experience, or we might go through a trial with our job or something in our relationship, you know, really heavy, heavy things. The loss of important, loving people in our lives. We can go through so much. And Yaminah shares her experience in caregiving for her parents. And if you've been a caregiver, then you know how hard that is. And yet she is transforming her personal experience in real time into helping other people heal and grow and evolve by tapping into their own truth, their own inner divine truth. I just thought that it was a wonderful conversation. She is a wonderful person, as are all of my guests on Let's Start Healing. I'm excited for you to meet her. Before we get to Yaminah, I want to ask you to subscribe to Let's Start Healing on whatever platform you are listening on. Please share the podcast with at least one person that you know. And the podcast is available pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts, the main well-known traditional platforms. So before I get to Yaminah, I want to share something that speaks a little more deeply to uh, how I feel she just walks that walk spiritually, and really she taps into God, her higher power, uh, to get the answers that she's looking for, and to the answers that speak to her calling and her purpose. And my favorite spiritual book, the book that guides me, is A Course in Miracles. And there is a line in the book that says, I walk with God in perfect holiness. I walk with God in perfect holiness. And I've shared this before. And what it speaks to is how we are all great. It is just a matter of us knowing and understanding our greatness and who we are. We cannot not be great because we are a part of God. And so this line is, I walk with God in perfect holiness. I like the world. I like my mind and all the minds that God created one with me. And sometimes if I'm really struggling, I will use this as my mantra because it is true for all of us. It says I, but I is you. I is we, us. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I light the world. I light my mind and all the minds which God created one with me. And in the reading for what I just shared, it says truth must be true throughout if it be true. It cannot contradict itself, nor be in parts uncertain and in others unsure. You cannot walk the world apart from God because you could not be without him. He is what your life is. Where you are, he is. There is one life, that life you share with him. Nothing can be apart from him and live. Yet where he is, there must be holiness as well as life. And that's why you walk with God in perfect holiness. So let's meet Yaminah. Let's get started and let's start healing. Welcome, Yaminah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. I'm so happy you're here. It's wonderful to meet your face, meet you in person.
Yeah, we can see
Live.
each other. Yeah.
We
It's
were,
beautiful
it
to
is.
connect, you
It
know?
is. We were
Yeah.
both in Lisa Nichols' motivational speaking course.
Yes.
Yeah. Was that your first time? That was my first experience.
Yes. Yes. And it blew me away
Yeah.
completely.
Did it help you to line up with the work that we're about to get into that you're doing now?
It helped solidify it, because I've always been interested in healing, different healing modalities. I'm actually a Reiki practitioner, have been for years, and I knew I had a message,
Yeah.
but when you have so much going on in life, it's just a lot coming at you, and you're dealing with it. You really don't know how to decide which message am I supposed to share.
Right.
And as I'm actually saying that to you, Adrian, it's not even my decision. I just heard that. That's not even my decision. You have to surrender to it. And when I joined Lisa's Ignite group, I first heard you have to talk about what's going on, with your parents and what you're experiencing, because everybody will experience it. Will either be caregivers or, be taken care of, or both,
Yes.
or we're all doing this, impossible juggling act with all of these responsibilities. And there's so many of us walking around on the verge of a breakdown, and so it was just so much there. It was a matter of getting to someone who held you accountable and said,
Mm,
that you do have a message. You must share it, and
that's
that
true.
got me on the road. Yeah.
That's true. She said we don't have a right to not share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this because it's so present. You are so connected, and I love it. How connected you are to yourself, your
Thank you.
inner spirit, to your God. Just you're so connected. And have you always been that way? And how did you get into Reiki healing?
Wow. Oh, wow. So that's a big question. So honestly, this is the thing that just came to my mind. So I'm just gonna go with it. So uh my connection came very early on in life. I have a nut allergy. And, back in the 80s, when, at least in my time period, I was young in the 80s, you're growing up, your parents are not paying attention to stuff like that, but it's very serious,
For sure.
And I had like a little bit of a pistachio in my throat closed up. I could not breathe.
How old were you?
I was in elementary school. I'm not exactly sure when. I just remember the experience of not being able to breathe. And as I'm gasping for air, and I am gasping for air. My mom is looking at me, my brothers are looking at me, my dad wasn't in the car, and I just had to sit there and take it. And my throat is closing and closing and closing and closing.
And you're not able to say,
No, I
you're not
can't
able to say,
speak.
help me.
I'm jumping out of the chair. They don't know what's going on. And I finally heard this voice. It was very peaceful, very quiet, and it said, "Breathe." And I said, "I can't breathe," and I'm jumping in the air. I'm going crazy. And then it said, "Breathe." And after several times, I calmed down. I sat in the chair, and there was this little bitty hole, like just air passage where I was able to breathe. And I all I had to do was just sit there and focus on that small air passage. And as I was doing it, I felt this comfort come over me. And it changed me. It changed me. So I know for a fact that we walk with angels around us. We have our ancestors around us of God's love and light
Yes.
that love us, support us, protect us, assist us. I would not be here if it wasn't for that, for me listening.
Wow.
So that was my first real connection in knowing that there's something higher. Even though, I grew up as a Muslim, we practice. So I had that connection, but this was something very real, where had I not listened, I know my life would have been different, quite different.
Yeah,
So I never forget that. I know we are being led, divinely led.
absolutely. And how did that, as you got older, lead to Reiki work? And then it's so funny that you're talking about listening and the breath because uh, one of my close friends, her work is all about the breath.
Mm,
And I have been working on that for about a year and a half. And it does help me to connect with me and God, like
yes.
myself inside
Yeah.
and God. I mean, breath is life, literally.
Yes.
And I am naturally a short breather.
Yeah.
And it took me, I used to say, I have another friend who would say, breathe. And I used to say, why is that so important? Why? I don't understand why I am breathing. Why is that so important? But it is important.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything is connected.
Yes. Yes. Even when you think about the breath and what we're breathing in what trees breathe out.
Mhm.
That's that connection. For me, this is why, I have things like this to remind me we have this divine connection, this beautiful connection to God's creation. It is nothing like it. And we get to participate in it. It's so beautiful. So
Yeah.
it's something that I uh, never lost. You can get caught up in just the everyday thing of trying to pay bills and trying to figure out what am I here for, and just all this stuff, and then you have your family stuff. It's just a lot, and you can get caught up in that. But it was always something right here that never went away.
It can't go away.
It will never go away. So it
Exactly.
was always these callings. You get messages, you get divine messages, and so Reiki was one of them that instantly I took to, because we're talking about manipulating energy,
Yeah.
and not manipulation in a negative connotation, but you're using energy to heal yourself. And it's really the presence of God within you. That's all you're doing, is just tapping into that energy within you and
Yes.
allowing it to do what it's supposed to do. Because as a practitioner, the Reiki is really not about me. I'm just a channel. And when I clear my mind, then I can hear, okay, move your hand here, do this, do that. And then I can see the person's reaction to it.
And I was about to ask about that, and you feel the energy in
Hmm.
your body.
I feel it in my body. Yeah. And then I can feel, because you use your hands, you can feel the energy coming out of you. And then, I usually do it with my eyes closed, and then, you can tap in more. It's
Yeah.
it's a rabbit hole. You can go as deep as you like.
Right. It's incredible. I
Yeah.
once had a session with someone, and my mom had passed. It was probably about 3 years since she was gone,
Mm.
and the person I didn't go into the session to connect with my mother. I
Mhm.
connected with my mother, and we were
Yeah.
literally having a conversation. I mean, it
Yeah.
I feel like my mother's with me in spirit anyway, so that wasn't the only setting,
Yeah.
but to it was really something like right now, I might feel her in my spirit and be talking to her in my thoughts,
Yes.
but I'm talking out loud to her through this person. It was really something in a Reiki session.
Yes. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not up to the practitioner what happens. We're
Right,
just the channel.
right.
And for it's beautiful that you were so open.
Yes.
You were open and ready to receive, so you were able to get those messages and get that connection
And
because it never stops.
right, and the thing is about your work is you represent how we are all connected
Mm,
because you're feeling their energy and you're
yeah,
healing with your energy through God,
yes,
and you're showing how it's a circle, we're all connected.
yeah. It's not even I'm not in charge. I'm just a channel. And so as I'm giving, I'm also receiving, because it is the presence of God, and that takes over. There is no other power in for what I believe. That is just the one power. And so when I open up, I benefit as well as the person, that I'm called to serve in that moment.
Mhm. Can you speak to how you benefit? Are you benefiting from the blessing of it all, the
That too.
wisdom of
Yeah,
it? You become healed as they're healing?
absolutely. Yeah, it's an exchange because the channel is open. So whatever it is, because everyone can come to the table with what they think the session should be about, but it's going to be about what God wants it to be about because it's all about your journey and where you are. And so as a channel, it's about my journey as well. So whatever I got going on, I'm going to start getting my messages. Then I'll get messages for them as well. Yeah, it's
Wow,
beautiful. It's beautiful. It's never one-sided because we're talking about the presence of the Most High.
exactly.
So I'm being served as well as the person is being served.
And so your road right now and
Mhm.
your work is as a caregiver,
Yes.
and you were caring for your father, now your mom. If you could talk about that and the work that you're doing.
Wow. It's so interesting because you just never know where life is going to take you. But if you just surrender to it, it will be exactly where you need to be. I would have never thought about this being part of my work or helping me really define who I am and what I'm called to do. But that's exactly what it's done. Yeah, and it started with my father announcing he had prostate cancer. And at that time, I was transitioning out of being a publicist and a writer into wellness because it had been calling me. If you can tell, just all my life, it's coming, and it got to that point where I needed to just surrender to it. So I started getting my certification in meditation because I knew that's something that, just brought me so much joy because you get in that oneness, with God. And, but I needed to just permanently take that leap. And, how you're working and you love what you do, and I've been very blessed, to be a writer, which is, my love, at that time, and I still love it, but this is my passion right here. So I had to learn how to discern, like when is it time to let go and it not allow what's happening and what I see to determine that. but what is the divine message, regardless of what's going on? And so I got that message: leave PR, stop writing, start diving into what you're doing. And as I'm doing that, that's when my father got his diagnosis. And
Mm.
I thought, okay, all right.
Start at home.
Yes.
Gonna
Yeah.
start at home, and you were in Atlanta? Were you in Atlanta at that point?
No, so I had left Atlanta, went out to LA, was in LA not even a year. And I was like, oh my God, this place is expensive. I'm going home. I'm going home and save some money. And I think at that point it was to go back there. But once I got home, I felt something was happening.
Home to Ohio, to Cleveland.
Yes, Cleveland, Ohio. And I could not put my finger on it, Adrian. You could feel it, where if you leave, you'll be back. Something is happening here. And I just didn't quite understand it. But the more I spent time with my parents, the more I understood that they needed me because something was taking place. It was just like a breakdown,
Are
you know?
you an only child, or do you have
Oh,
siblings?
no, I'm the oldest of five. I have four younger brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and two half sisters. Yeah. But I grew up with myself and my brothers. Yeah. So as the oldest, when you're seeing this, and things are not connecting, um, I just felt bad. Like I can't leave, not understanding why things are not in place, And I know I'm being vague. I'm just trying to be respectful, of my parents. And I will say this: mental health issues comes in all types of ways. People can function with it. But if you're paying attention, you can see that there's something going on.
Something was out of order,
Something was out of order.
and you knew that you needed to be home and take
Yeah,
care of your parents, and at least watch over and take care of them, not even necessarily in that traditional caregiving mode that you would
at
come.
that time.
Right.
Yeah. But just something was taking place. And then I decided I needed to stay and do my own healing too, because I'm having this battle between, okay, you need to go back out to LA, but is that really your calling? Is that what you want to do? Or is that what you're being called to do? And sit still until you understand how you're being told to move. And then that's when everything just started. When I look back now, it all just kind of just happened the
Mm,
way it was supposed to.
mm, mm,
And
mm.
I'm so thankful that I listened, and then just take off because I felt like doing it,
Right.
you know?
Well, if nothing else, I mean, you were there for your dad, in the first place, because you probably didn't know that he wasn't gonna survive.
Had no idea.
Mhm.
Had no idea. Yeah, it was just me working on myself, creating a plan for this wellness, because this is a whole new career that I really want to dive like fully into, and then he gets his diagnosis, and he gets his diagnosis maybe a month or two before it's officially announced that there's this thing called COVID.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, but I look back and I know I did exactly what I was supposed to do.
so were you home, and it was just you and your parents, and
Yeah.
you're taking care of your dad, you and your mother?
My mom and I are taking care of him, but I'm seeing something happening with her as well,
Mhm.
and it turns out, that it was dementia. We just didn't get her diagnosed until everything was said and done with my dad. But, it's interesting to kind of watch your parents and you have this vision of who they were for 20, 30 years, and then you see something happening where it's like a deterioration.
How old was your dad and how old is your mom? Because 'Cause I'm thinking they can't be too.
No, well, there's 6 years they were 6 years apart. My mom is 73 now. She'll be 74. in December. And my dad, how old was he when he died? 73?
He was 73.
Yeah, was he 73? I think when he died.
So
Yeah.
he passed a year or so ago?
hmm Yeah.
And so you were taking care of him, and now you're taking care of your mom, and
Yeah.
that's a different, set of skills, energy, everything.
It is. You have to have incredible patience. And you know what? It taught me leadership because you have to take over. You have to take over even when they don't understand. Because, in them, especially with my father, it was a constant, you know, what do you call it? Tug of war.
Yeah, right, right.
Uh,
'Cause he's a
in his
man.
mind, I'm still me. Like, I'm
Right,
doing me.
right, right. He's a man, I'm thinking he was a black man.
Yes.
And so
So he is all him. My father was old school, from New Orleans, born and raised, he's that old school. And in his mind, I can still drive, I can still do this, I can still do that. And it was just constant conversations of just trying to get him to understand. I know in your mind, you think, hey, you still that guy, but no, you're not. And then unfortunately, as time is passing, he's understanding. And he actually told me, which is really interesting because he really doesn't talk about his emotions and how, he felt. But he every now and then he would tell me, Yamina, something's wrong with me. He's like, I can tell I'm not thinking clearly. You're gonna have to think. You're gonna have to do this. And that's when it's like, okay, you're ready for me to fully,
yeah,
take over.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, did you have poignant times as he was nearing the end? Was that an impactful experience?
My gosh, all of it. Yeah. Seeing him reviewing his own life, what he thought he did good at, and he actually didn't give himself enough credit, I don't think. Just raising my brothers and myself, being there for my sisters as much as he could, those my two half sisters. Um, but then, my father wasn't perfect. He had his skeletons, and when stuff like this happens, they start coming out the closet. And so, for me, going back to just the leadership, you know, understanding, do not get in my emotions because everybody else is, and I can't afford to allow that to influence me to make a bad decision that's going to have a ripple effect on everybody.
That's a lot.
So it is. So I had to learn, you got to boss up,
Mhm,
just plain and simple. Okay, I see, what's happening here with him. We had our own disagreements. I need to put that aside because my father's dying. I see my mother is going through something, and she's deteriorating, and then I have everybody else who has their own way of responding to it. But then business still has to be handled, and it has to be handled with integrity. So that means Yamina has to get her stuff out the way. And I think it's such a valuable skill set to learn how to put your emotions aside so you can see the bigger picture. And again, let me get quiet because during this time, Adrienne, I would fast a lot.
mhm,
I fasted a lot because I needed to just get still and hear how God wanted me to move because I had never been through this before. And I can't act like I know what I'm doing. I do not know what I'm doing. I'm doing my best, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I do need that higher power to tell me, guide me. Where should I go? What should I do next? And it can get to every single step.
mhm.
I don't have it where I can just, do it on my own and then I'll just check in whenever. No, every single step I need to understand because it has a trickle down effect on the entire family.
Mhm. What you're talking about is enormous. I know this because I had mentioned to you offline that I was a caregiver to my mother mainly, also my grandmother who was, her illness was not long, but,
Yeah.
I was to my mother and, there's other family members. I mean, what you are talking about is huge,
Yeah.
and you have your own emotions. This
Yes.
is your father and your mother, your father's immediate, you see something going on with your mother that's concerning you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're only human. These are people that
Yes.
you love. And the idea, putting my emotions aside, was not something I even considered. I
I completely understand.
I mean, it was everything worked out okay, but, you're when y it's real when you talk about other people. I have 2 older brothers. We're all I had 2 older brothers, and we were, you know, 3 of us were losing our mother.
Yes.
So, it's an emotional thing, and I didn't get the clarity that you had probably in the moment until after.
Mm.
After, because they would make me mad sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I
No,
was
and that happened.
yeah, like, they just don't get it. They don't
They don't
understand,
get it.
but they're
Nobody
there
gets it.
too.
Yeah, nobody gets it, unless they've been a caregiver. Unless you've walked the walk, you really just don't get it. I didn't get it, when I saw people before my own time came.
Right.
And so now I can have so much more, empathy for them, and know that when I hear someone is in that situation, let me pour love into you because I know what you're going through, and nobody else really does unless they're walking that walk.
You're just amazing. I feel blessed to be talking with you because
Thank you.
I understand all the dynamics that you have and that you exhibit, and it is huge. It is not nothing.
Yeah,
It is really, really big. To have, the ability to do that is big. The will and the discipline
yeah.
is really big.
But, the calling, and I think maybe that's why I'm so passionate about it and just sharing the journey, and not just because I have my own programs that I help, especially women who are just, overwhelmed, on the verge of burnout. I just recently wrapped up a program with a group of women educators. And so everybody's not in this exact situation, although some may mirror it a little bit, but it's just the having this overwhelming sense of, I don't know what to do. How am I going to ever get out of that? Um, for me, my passion comes from understanding, Adrian, that now that I've had some time to kind of look at it, and then I'm going through this again with my mom, you're being shaped
Mm,
into who God wants you to be. Just period. You are being molded, you know, and you have to surrender to that, because knowing that, you're learning, you're growing, you're healing, you're dropping stuff off, you're evolving so that you can show up a certain way in order to serve people who will either be in this situation, who are stuck, who don't know how to get out of it. You can share. So when I, coaching and I see people like nodding their head and, writing notes and, becoming emotional, it's because I went through all of that and I'm able to share with them. And I told them, if I can save you 5 steps, 2 steps, I've done my job. If you have an understanding, a better understanding, so you can walk without having so much pain, but just to kind of shift your mindset about, yes, this hurts, but this is for the calling. And the calling is greater than anything.
yeah.
This
Wow,
is what we came to do.
exactly. So, um, gosh, it's a question I wanna ask you, and I want to get into more detail about your coaching. We have a choice to do what you're describing.
Mm,
So what you're doing, we have a choice to show up and listen to the call and
mm.
allow ourselves to be led and to be shaped. And so if we don't answer that call,
Ooh.
what do you see?
Mm. Deterioration. That's what I see. And what I've learned, because this was my calling for a long time, it just so happened, I guess, for me to surrender to it during this like family crisis, you know. But the calling is always there. And what I've learned is this world will reconfigure itself to put you on the path for you to say yes.
Mm.
There is free will is an illusion. It's an illusion. You may have free will for a year, 5 years, 10 years. Eventually, it's going to run out because when it's time, it's time. And that's that.
And I think that I personally think, and I don't know this for a fact, this is something I believe, that even before we come here,
Mm,
well, I definitely like my knowing is I existed before I got here.
yes.
When I came here, I came here with a path, and I
Mhm.
can't avoid that path,
Yes.
to what you were just describing. So I
Yes.
may put it off, and it
Yes.
might be 5 years or something like that, but I can't help but get to that place. And if
Absolutely.
I think, and this is a whole nother conversation, but I think if something happens and I pass away and I don't accomplish that, then I'm coming back. But I'm not coming back. I'm trying
You
right.
wanna get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like because that's what it's all about. This is the journey. This is a beautiful journey, and I'm learning, like, watching my father pass away, becoming this, very strong figure in my life, deteriorate to the point where he can't talk, he can't walk, he can't do anything. He was able to kind of blink his eyes, to let me know he hears me. I could see a little smirk on his face, at the end, um, when he was just, for me, just withering away. To see him, my father was a strong man, very strong figure. And to see him go through that, and see that be the end, it hurt. But then I'm always called to look at the bigger picture, because we're all going to go through something, in our transition and how we move from physical back to spiritual.
Exactly.
So for me, it's, well, what am I here to do? What am I here to do? Because that's never going away.
Mhm.
So I might as well, because I saw my father, avoid certain things, the growth and, letting some things go and, not learning to forgive and just all these things that I saw through his own journey. I'm looking at mine now, like, okay, we know we need to learn how to forgive, and just let stuff go. We don't want it to turn into anything in our bodies. That's a whole nother conversation, but what is the bigger picture? Because there's always going to be peaks and valleys. I need to learn how to ride the wave as I fulfill whatever this calling is. I am not going to like everything that is happening.
Yes.
Just plain and simple. I did not enjoy watching my father wither away.
Right.
And now I'm watching my mother mentally wither away from me.
Mhm.
But there's something greater happening here within me. And
Yes.
so I have to let that out. That's why I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
and I'll just say it to whoever I need to say it to because I feel like that's part of what my journey is about.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something greater happening. And actually, you know what, Adrian, recently I was thinking about my father passing and just passing, just the transition, that whole process. And I was thinking, you know what? I have to find the peace and the beauty in this thing. or it's going to take me out emotionally, and I'm not letting that happen.
Right.
So where is the joy, the peace in this? And I thought about how my father shedded all that stuff. He grew up he was born in 1944. In New Orleans, he experienced real racism, physical racism, and he's able to shed that stuff, all of that stuff. But also, too, just watching other people in my family pass away, it's like you get to go higher. You
Exactly.
drop the meat suit. You
Yes.
get to go higher. Who says that our evolution stops with this body? It doesn't. It didn't start it with the body. So it doesn't end with the body.
No.
So let me focus on how my people are going higher, onward and upward.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
that's the journey.
That is the journey, and the time here is short.
Yeah.
It's a short time. It seems like a long time, but it's really not. It's
Yeah.
really not. And I think about my loved ones. Both my parents are gone, my brothers are gone, and
Oh,
I'm like, just, well, a part of me sometimes would feel, not that I wanna leave, but I would feel jealous because I
mhm.
would feel like, "You guys are hanging out, you guys are together again."
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also think about how all the stuff that I still have, um,
Mm.
the memories, good times, bad times,
Yes.
they're in such a higher place than any bad times.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
bad times are, like, gone. Like, if they even come to me in spirit, they don't have that baggage.
Not the back. Yes.
All gone.
We're the ones that's holding on and they're not,
Right,
which
right.
is fascinating
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
especially when you're open enough to receive them, as they are,
Right.
on the other side to get your messages, to make that connection. I remember my aunt came to me and Adrian, she came so regal, like royalty. Like I felt like bowing to her because I mean, the only thing I can describe it as is like Felicia Rashad because she seems very regal,
Yes,
Christine to me.
yes.
That's how my aunt came to me. Now, how she was in physical, that's not how she left, and she had all that emotions from all the trauma she's been through, just all that stuff gone.
Right.
And I looked, I was like, did you take a class or, what did you do? Because she was almost, I wouldn't say unrecognizable, but she's my aunt, but not my aunt because this is some regal queen, coming to me, showing me herself. And I quickly caught my cousin. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what your mother did. She did something. She graduated. Something happened. I don't know. I'm just, I feel blessed to be able to have that experience of seeing her evolve because she definitely evolved somehow.
Yes.
That stuff was gone. And I have seen her like just in different iterations because she would come, right after she passed. I seen her again. But this last time was just this queen mother something. I was like, "Ooh," I said, "This is beautiful."
You come to you in meditations? How does
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it can be meditation, it could be some of them come in sleep when I'm sleeping.
right, right. I have those experiences.
Yeah.
So your work, and you were telling me that it's not just about, being still and getting their healing that way and getting
Mm,
centered, it's about taking some
action.
actions.
Yeah, you being intentional with your actions, especially when see, the thing is for me, we get quiet so we can hear divine guidance. You have to hear how the creator is calling you to move forward. In order to do that, you have to be still. You just have to be still. And what I'm learning, Adrian, is get still, but sometimes I need a little bit more, which is why I fast. because fasting gets away, it puts away the distractions.
Mhm.
There's a lot of distractions in this world, and it's designed that way.
Yes.
So you have to fast from, so that's my message now. You have to fast in some form or fashion. It doesn't mean you have to deprive yourself, of everything, but do something where you are pushing yourself a little bit to be greater, and I do that so I know I'm grounded in the oneness. And
Yes.
now it helps me to hear more clearly what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I just finished last week. I finished a 21-day water fast.
Really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
I'll continue to do. I'm just gonna continue to do it because it helps me get the distractions out the way. I got too much, riding on me.
yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you have your calling, you're walking your walk. All right, I need to use these tools to
Mhm.
make sure that I'm staying in the oneness.
Yeah. And share more about when you're fasting and how that is getting the distraction away. So is
Ooh,
it that you're getting your mind off of that thing, that you're getting your mind off food, plus you don't have that poison in you of the processed food, but
that's
is it
it.
that or
That's absolutely it. My thing, so my hesitation all these years was because of the food. Because I was called, you gotta clean up your diet, and I'm one of those people, okay, I'm a vegan. Well, what does that mean? It's just junk food. That's all it is. It's more processed food, you know. Am I eating from the ground and from the tree? Because that's real food. Anything that man makes, I don't consider food. I call them edibles, because they are, yeah, they're made to get you high.
yeah,
They're made to distract you.
yeah.
You know? So, I had a hard time, just surrendering to that. But I would do a little bit here, a little bit there. But during this time with my parents, I just had to buckle down because there was just too much going on,
Mhm.
at once. And so, you know, Spirit had just led me. You know what to do,
Mhm.
and start fasting. And it does, like I said, it doesn't have to be everything at once. Give up that, luxury coffee we all like to go to. That was the thing I had to give up. That place, I'm not gonna name it, but I had a Joan for that place and had to give it up,
Yeah,
and I will go through my moments where I give it up and then I'll go back and then give it up and then go back. And so now it's just, let's just let it go,
yeah. I've
you know?
I've, um, very recently given up meat, and,
Mm,
although I haven't given up seafood, but I'm on my way, I believe, but I have felt like I'm not supposed to be eating that, as
mm.
much and I like beef, okay?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I do, and I've rationalized and rationalized about cows. And, one of my friends has cows, and recently I was like, "So you bond with the cow and then you kill the cow?" I was like,
Like, how does that work?
"Can't do that," So I, and I do feel different, of having given it up. Not that I ate meat every day, but it was something I felt like that's not what I'm not supposed to be eating anything
Mm,
alive. And
yeah.
it's been alive. And now just yesterday I had some fish that from a place that I regularly go to, and I just could not enjoy the fish. I
It
mean,
it it wasn't all that like it
it's in
used to be.
no, it's in the just
Yeah,
looking at it was bothering me, and I had stopped
yeah,
eating chicken, like, I can't eat chicken, period. I had to
yeah,
give that up, like, a while ago, so it's something that, like, I can't explain, but I know I'm not supposed to be eating this, and I think that it's something that we do that, like,
yeah,
it's something to me that we're not eating each other, you know?
yeah, and who's to
Why
say we won't go there,
not?
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Who's to say? Yeah, it's so important,
Mhm.
but I like how you're listening.
Mhm.
And because we all know we can
Yeah,
feel it,
yeah,
when we're off our path. It's really not about what other people do. It's about what you're called to do.
ex
And whether am I listening, like you said, the rationale, like I'm wrestling all over the place so I can keep this, but then I taste it and now it don't even taste the same. Like that was just a complete waste of my time, you know?
one time I, was looking at the carcass of the roasted chicken,
Mm,
like, I can't do this anymore. That's it. Like, it was
yeah,
like, "This is horrible,
yeah,
horrible for me to be doing this."
yeah, yeah.
So
It's so interesting.
yeah.
It's so interesting, but I don't even know. Like I stopped eating meat years ago, but I've always said, well, Yamina, would you eat it if you were in another country? Because the way they process our food here is a whole lot different from how other countries do. So, but I think that's me opening another little window so I can fall through. Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to check yourself. Like,
Yeah,
is this me? I'm trying to create a little space, a little wiggle room for myself.
mhm.
You
Yes,
know, we
yes.
do that.
And so now in your coaching, are you coaching people who are caregivers? You're coaching all different types of people?
It's all different types of people. Yeah. I think the caregiving was just a gateway for people to understand because even before then, I had such a crazy schedule, working as a publicist and a writer to where, I was on the verge of burnout, which is what, that was the catalyst for me to say, you know what, you need to start looking into this self healing
Mhm.
work. So, for me, the gateway is the caregiving. But when people start hearing my story about, the crazy, working hours I had and just that whole work environment, toxic work environments, and, just all that type of history too, they understand that I'm here with you. You
Yeah,
know, I can connect with you even if you're not a caregiver. It's okay. We all have so much responsibilities on us and we have so many distractions in this world. And
yeah.
we have to learn how to take care of ourselves. You only have one life and you only have one body. It's not like you can jump into another body.
Mhm,
You
mm,
must take care of this one. And if you're going to do that, then you need to do it authentically. It might as well be according to whom you're called to be,
right.
not what other people expect of you.
Yeah,
So, with my coaching, it's not just meditation, just going back to the action piece. We meditate so we can get the message and then take inspired action.
mhm.
You have to create the change.
And do you talk to them, or do they talk to you about the message that they receive, and then you guide them, or how does it work?
Some of them do privately because it's so, it's still a stigma about that, getting your divine messages. Yeah. So for me, what I say to them is, and I give them like notepads. They have this whole digital book. It's because it's a journal. You're journaling your journey. This
Yeah,
is your walk. So when you're in meditation, don't be afraid to hear something other than your own voice. I remember Iyanla Van Zant said, "It's dangerous to be in your head by yourself," which is so true.
yeah, yeah.
You want to be able to connect to that higher power within you, and you get the message, and then you move on it
Right.
because it's like one step, then another step, then another step, then another step.
Yeah,
And I teach them that take the one step. Forget about step 10 or the big milestone or accomplishing the major
right,
goal. No, accomplish, take the next best step.
right.
You
Yes,
know,
that's it.
that's it. And you're able to do that when you're following divine guidance.
That's true. I when I'm in meditation, the way that I best get there is through prayer.
Yes.
And I don't feel like I'm meditating until I'm not praying anymore. When I
Mhm.
stop talking, then that's when I feel I'm in meditation, and that's when I'm listening and receiving and, getting what
Yeah.
you're describing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's however you get there.
Right.
Your way is your way. And that's the thing that I stress to them the most. Find your way. My way, during the course, I'll, expose you to several different things. But when you find what works for you, work it.
That's
Work it.
exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
However, because that's your personal relationship with your creator.
Right. Right.
So you want it to be real, you want it to be true, authentic to who you are, and you will use it more and more because it works.
Yeah.
You'll start seeing it working. So yeah, and that's the other piece of it too. Like I love how you say your prayer is your meditation. You're talking, and then because I've done that. I'll talk and talk and talk until I naturally just stop speaking, and
Yes.
then I'm just in the quiet,
Yes. Yes.
and
Because
then you can hear.
exactly. Now, I actually, because I grew up Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore,
Mhm.
but I grew up Catholic. So, uh, Hail Mary is a prayer that's very powerful for me. And
Yes,
so I literally will have my eyes closed and I'll start talking out loud. But then eventually
yes,
I just stop. It becomes more of a whisper and then it
yes,
becomes nothing.
yes,
And then, it stops in my head. Like that is what will take me there the best. That'll
yeah,
take me there the best way.
yeah.
So, yeah, it is about listening, and it's amazing. I know you must have had, um, some experiences, uh, at some point in time, or maybe all the time, like, sometimes it can almost feel like too much, like overwhelming,
Mm,
like the love is like a love that I can't
yeah,
hold.
yeah,
Have
yeah. You
felt like
have to let it out.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's when yeah, a lot of times I'm crying. I'm ending up, just
yes,
crying.
yeah,
Just, so overwhelmed just with gratitude and the fullness. That fullness of the presence of God is just so beautiful. What I love about that space though, Adrian, is you don't need nothing. You're not wanting anything. You're not desperate. You're full.
yes.
And
So
that's the goal, to get to that space.
yes. So, do you know, the spiritual teacher Muji?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I would think, I used to think, I can't imagine, like, when I leave this form, not having an identity.
Mm.
I used to think, I'm gonna still want the food I like, right? And, I just couldn't, I used to just couldn't imagine that, right? And, I evolved, but still
I feel you though.
he does this meditation that is so amazing to me because I could be getting dressed and listening to him
Mm.
and still go into it where
Yeah.
I understand he starts talking and starts having you shed your identity.
Yeah.
He just starts having you go within. And the first time I heard him do that or I connected to it, I really understood, like, he said, "So is there a you?
Mm.
Do you have any needs?" I mean, it was amazing. Like, I was like, "No." And what do you feel? And it was just love.
Yeah.
And there was no need to identify with myself or anything else
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
any form. It was amazing.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. I love that space. And it's so funny you mention it because that's one of the things I need to work on is learning how to get myself back in that space of no thing, you know, no identity, nothing,
Mhm.
just in the allness. It's like you're participating in being in the allness of all that God is with no identity and full.
Yes. Yes. And
It's so no,
yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, no, please, you what were
I
you gonna
was gonna say, I had this, experience after seeing the movie, Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, and remember they were going down in different consciousness, right? After seeing that movie, I had a dream that I was going down to different consciousness until I got to a space where it was no thing. It was just white space, nothing. I was part of the white space, but I was not I, you
Right.
know? And this voice, same thing, was, do you want I think it said, "Do you wanna connect with Yaminah?" And I said, "No."
Oh, Lord, I love that. Wow.
Yeah. And when it said the word Yaminah, I got this vision of all of my life, like the things that make Yaminah, Yaminah. And I said, "No, I didn't want anything to do with it." This is in the dream. I
Right.
said, "No," and then next thing I know, Yaminah was gone, and I was back in the white space.
Wow.
And I just remember just being. And then I got a message, "Okay, you have to be Yamina again." And then I woke up. And I've been trying to get back to that.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love it, love it. And so I'm thinking about someone that I know who has gone through a few difficult years in trying to know their, um, their path and what
Mm,
they should be doing. Excuse me. Really, it's around work, but and this person really does try to listen,
mhm,
really does turn to God and gets frustrated because they're not really getting the answers that they think they want or
mm,
that are leading to a successful path.
mm,
And so, I mean, really, when I first brought this question up, I'm thinking about our ego and how we
mm,
get out of the way of our ego. And I know that's what we're talking about,
yeah,
this whole time. But sometimes it's not as easy to get out of the way, or there is a practice, but it's not working.
mm. As you're talking, um, so this is what I'm hearing. Um, Sometimes we got the answer. It wasn't what we wanted it to be. And sometimes we create chaos because the chaos is comfortable versus actually facing what we know, what we're supposed to do, and then actually moving in that direction.
Mhm.
It's kind of like this, like I'm caught up here, I don't know what's going on. Well, yeah, you do. So let's, just be still. And rather than saying, I don't know, yeah, I do know. Help me. Like, what is the prayer? Help me with my unbelief.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I don't know
Yeah.
it, but I have heard that.
Yeah. You know what it is. Especially if you've asked, over and over, because this is the one thing I had to learn too. When you ask sincerely once and then let it go. There is no need to ask several times.
Yeah,
Now put yourself in a position to receive the answer.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know? So every synchronicity that you get, any little like, hey, I was thinking this, and oh, look, there's a magazine, with the topic, on it, or here's somebody on television talking about it. Follow the road. Yeah. But so what I'm hearing is just a lot of resistance
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
because you have to be responsible. It's like once you hear it, you're responsible for actually doing it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I know for myself, you just said something just recently, and I would say the last few months, I'm starting to really know. I would hear this and I'd be like, yeah, I get it. But now I know that the, excuse me, the answer is at a higher level, a higher vibration,
Mm,
higher place than the prayer or the request.
Mm.
So that letting it go is, um, I mean, for me to receive it,
Yes.
for me to receive it, if I'm still in that place of me asking, asking,
Asking.
asking, I'm not in the place to receive it. I
No,
I need to be at a higher place to receive it.
to receive it, yeah.
'Cause it's
And
always there. I just gotta receive it.
yeah, you know what? What helps me now is there's one answer to everything, and that is the creator, the most high. So when I ask now, and we all get into that, well, I'm gonna ask again, and let me ask again because you're frustrated.
Mhm.
I remind myself, well, there's only one answer, Yamina. There's only one, God.
Yes.
So let's stop asking,
Yeah.
and let me again get into the receptive mode of receiving. First of all, let me say thank you that I can even ask and know that I will get a response
Mhm.
because God never leaves us. So I'm not out here floating on my own.
And God wants what we want. As
Yeah.
long as it's in love, God
Yeah.
wants what we want. God's not trying to withhold from us.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And so that comforts me, which, like you said, now let me go higher, and get out of that frustration of asking over and over again and let me be grateful. So that actually works for me. Gratitude that I can
Mhm.
even ask and get an answer and know that an answer is on the way.
Yeah.
That's going to actually benefit me, but make me be more of who I'm called to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple of more questions before I let you go. Before I let you go, you mentioned a meditation certification.
Mhm.
Would you share more about that?
So the meditation certification I have is mindfulness based stress reduction, and the focus on that is really present moment. So
Mhm.
that's the certification,
Love it.
yeah, because that puts you in the present. No going in the past and dwelling there. No going in the future. Be here because everything is happening here.
Yeah.
So that's my certification. But what I do is use different techniques to get people to even get there. So if that means a lot of times what works for people is like things like this. Imagining yourself somewhere else. Usually it's the beach. A lot of times people love if I put the beach on, majority everybody loves that. And then they can zone out because they need to get out of their mind and out of the circumstances that they're currently in. So for me, that's more effective, and then when I can get you out and we create a safe space. So for me, in my meditations, we always create a safe space because each person has to have their space they can go to where they feel loved and supported. And so in the imagination meditation, you build your space out so
Mhm.
you feel loved and supported. So then when you're there, now I can talk to you about being present, and then we can pull those things, those answers to us because it's not in the future, it's not in the past, it's right here
Yeah.
within you in your oneness with your creator.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the group of educators you were working with. Would you meet with them as a group or
Yeah.
individually? Okay.
As a group.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
every week we would meet as a group. Yeah.
lastly, before you can share with people how to reach you, would you speak to the importance of um, not giving up and
Mm.
continuing to move forward? Because when I think about you and how open and connected you are, I also feel like it's been a process. You've been committed to this since that first experience you mentioned when you heard breathe. And so it's, even if sometimes, you might stop for a minute or something like that, you've been committed to listening to that voice in you and growing and evolving. And I was just making a video about this, about just not giving up you
Yes.
know, because
Yeah.
it does come. Things do open up.
Yeah. But that's right when the breakthrough is about to happen. That's why you can't give up. That it's right there. Like, why go through all the mess, the hurt, the pain, the trauma, whatever it is, to get to the last few steps and then give up. Whenever you're at that point where you feel like giving up, don't give up. Just take a break and breathe. That's the moment where go watch a movie. You know, I don't, and it can be something very, heavy and insurmountable that you feel like I cannot deal with this. You always have a moment where you can breathe. And that breathing may come into actual breathing, or it may, let me take a walk. Let me go to the grocery store and just smile at people. That's the other thing too. Let me one time, probably shouldn't even say it out loud, but one of the things, I did to kind of get myself out of my head about what's going on with Yamin and what she has to deal with. Um, there's a grocery store that's always filled with elders when I go. It's just, for whatever reason, at a certain time, I guess they just shop at that time. And I'll go and I'll pay for somebody's groceries just to get out of my head.
Yes.
And then it because it's also a form of tithing as well,
Yes.
but you're giving because I know the creator is providing for me
Yes.
and is showering me with so much love and support. Let me go demonstrate that.
Yes.
And then you receive the love back from the person. But I'm showing you the light of God that's in me, that's exactly in you.
Mhm.
Let me demonstrate that. So sometimes it's just good to go and just separate yourself from what's going on with you, focus on someone else,
Mhm.
or just don't focus at all. Watch a dumb, show,
Yeah.
that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
Anything to get your mind off of it. And then you can go back refreshed,
Mhm.
and then you may have a little bit more gas in the tank to keep moving forward. And
Yeah.
then something else will happen. Like, never give up on yourself. Never give up on yourself.
Yeah.
You're too valuable. If you didn't have value, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
We all have value.
Right. Right.
We all have something very beautiful and very unique about us to share.
And I think that it's it's intentional that we are here at this point in time versus 40 years ago. And
Yes,
when the people who were there 40, 50, 60 years ago, at that point in time, it was important for
yes,
them to be there at that point in time. So
absolutely.
it's important that we're here right now. Yeah.
Doing our work.
Yeah.
And the work really is being who you are, who you called to be.
Yeah.
That unique part of you. You have a unique perspective on life, how you move through the world, how you engage in God's creation. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
It's absolutely beautiful, and nobody is doing it like you.
Yeah. You're one of the other things that's amazing about you is you're going through what you're going through. You're still grieving your father. You're taking care of your mother. And to be in this space is something. It really is a choice and a calling because you could be doing something else.
Yeah,
You could be doing something else.
yeah. But then, like we said before, all roads will,
Yeah.
restructure itself to put me back where I'm supposed to be. But just use this voice,
Yeah.
and to share.
Well, how can people reach you if they want to get in touch and are interested in your services?
They can reach out. They can actually go to my website, which is cy-y.com, and center yourself with Yaminah, but it's shortened cy-y.com. Or they can go to Instagram, center yourself with Yaminah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, and so you can, provide services to someone virtually if they're
Yeah,
in another
yeah.
city? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I love, this new way. Like I know there's a lot going on with AI, and people have their opinions about it, but we're in this digital age where you can reach somebody from across the world. I love that.
I do too.
And you can build like a really big tribe that way, of like minds and like hearts.
Well, thank you. This
Thank
has
you.
been wonderful.
I love, we were, chatting the first time. So yeah, this
Yes,
is
and
beautiful.
I hope that you come back. I would love for you to
Yeah.
come
No,
again.
this is beautiful. I love what you're doing here. And we need more conversations like this. It's so necessary.
Yeah.
So thank you for just creating a platform so we can talk, like really
Absolutely.
talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Yaminah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I told you that would be good. Remember, you can listen to all Let's Start Healing episodes on traditional platforms. That includes YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Please share Let's Start Healing with at least one person you know. And until next time, let's start healing.